The original fat PlayStation 3 still holds a significant value. That PlayStation 3 is capable of playing 3 generations of PlayStation games through local disk support. That the PlayStation 3 is considered an incredible PlayStation console and a symbol of what consoles were capable of in the early 2000s. You could pop in PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and of course the PlayStation 3 disc and dive into the 3 generations of gaming. The concept of that kind of local backwards compatibility is almost nostalgic today, especially as the gaming landscape continues to evolve. Now, with the inevitable arrival of the PlayStation 6, there's an interesting conversation to be had about the future of the consoles and backwards compatibility. There's a strong possibility that the PlayStation 3 could allow for the 3 generations of gaming as well, with the native support for the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and of course the PlayStation 6 games. Though PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 6 games will likely look similar in many ways. It's exciting to think that the future of the PlayStation could offer such backwards compatibility without compromising performance or even the visuals. Now, consoles today are much more like PCs in the architecture, but they still retain certain advantage. One of the key benefits consoles offer is their streamlined, optimized nature, because companies like Sony can manufacture these systems on a massive scale and partner closely with AMD for specialized hardware. They can get better deals on components and deliver high performance at lower cost. This optimized design, allowing the exclusive collaboration on features like GPU tech, means that consoles still offer unique advantages over the PCs. By the time PlayStation 6 arrives, I imagine it will support native PlayStation 6 games, PlayStation 5 games with enhanced settings, and of course the base PlayStation 4 games. Perhaps with the continued evolution of the technologies like PlayStation's PSSR, we'll even see some old PlayStation 4 games look dramatically better. We're already seen some of this with the PlayStation 5's ability to upscale older titles, and it's fascinating to think about the future enhancements that could make past games look and play even better. However, there's a pipe dream I think many of us share. A PlayStation console that plays every generation of games, including handhelds with local disk support. Imagine a system that accepts PS1, PS2, PS3, PSP, PS Vita, PS4, and PS5 games. Sony could market it as an ultimate PlayStation all-in-one hub for every piece of PlayStation history. Of course, this is extremely unlikely. The technical challenges alone would absolutely be enormous. Sony would need to integrate UMD support for the PSP games, including the CD laser for PS1 disc, and somehow incorporate the infamous cell processor to run the PlayStation 3 titles. It's probably never gonna happen, but it's fun to imagine. For now, Sony has focused on this PlayStation Classic program, which offers a digital way to play some of the older games. Over the past 2 years, we actually seen a slow rollout on PS1, PS2, and of course PSP games on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. While this has been a step in the right direction, the progress has been quite slow. Each month we might get 3, maybe 4 new titles added, many of which are first-party Sony IPs that are easier for the company to license. The real issue holding back this program isn't the technology to emulate these sorts of older games, is the licensing. Now, many third-party games are stuck in licensing limbo, and some may never be brought back into the modern platform due to the expired music or the content licenses. It's a shame because there are treasure troves of games from previous generations that deserve to be accessible to modern audiences. I hope that as the years go by and we approach to the PlayStation 6, we'll see more of those classic titles restored on the PlayStation Store, especially with PlayStation 3 games being a notable challenge. The PS3's cell processor has always been tricky to emulate, which is why we haven't seen many native PlayStation 3 games outside of remasters and ports. But perhaps the PlayStation 6 with its improved hardware could finally bring about a reliable way to emulate PlayStation 3 games directly. In recent years, we've seen the influx of remakes, remasters, and ports of the 7th generation of games, particularly from PlayStation 3 era. From first-party studios to third-party developers, many companies are bringing back older titles for the PlayStation 4 and of course the PS5. Whether it's through the PlayStation Classic program or modern remakes, the availability of these titles is slowly improving. By the time the PS6 arrives, I hope we'll have much more robust library of classic games that can be enjoyed with new features like enhanced graphics and frame rates. One thing I find particularly exciting is how PlayStation has shifted towards maintaining a more persistent library of games across generations. With the PS4 launched in 2013, it felt like a reset. There was no backwards compatibility, it was a fresh start with a brand new library of games. But as we look ahead, it's clear that Sony is committed to building a long-term library that continues to grow with each new console. This continuity is important, as it ensures that players' digital collection aren't left behind when new hardware arrives. With the PS6 likely still a few years away, it's interesting to consider how future consoles might rival the legacy of the PS3. I still believe that the early PlayStation 3 models with full backwards compatibility were some of the most incredible machines Sony has ever made, even if they were over-engineered and prone to reliability issues. But with each new generation, PlayStation hardware seems to be evolving towards a similar level of versatility, allowing gamers to play across generations and enjoy enhanced versions of older favorites. Of course, there are challenges along the way, particularly when it comes to the growing prevalence of live service games, subscription models, and cloud streaming. Many games are understandably wary of these trends, but it's important to remember that there are still plenty of high-quality single-player experiences available. And while subscription services and cloud gaming are becoming more prominent, they don't necessarily detract from the overall gaming experience, at least not for everybody. Looking ahead, I think that PlayStation 6 has the potential to offer a truly flexible and powerful gaming experience between continuing improvements in hardware, backwards compatibility, and a steady rollout of classic titles. PlayStation's future does seem to be bright. Assuming Sony continues on this path, the PlayStation 6 could very well rival the PlayStation 3 as one of the best PlayStation consoles ever made. Now, in the meantime, there are plenty to enjoy in the current generation, with countless new games, remasters and classics being restored on the PlayStation Store. It's a great time to be a PlayStation fan, I believe so, and while the future may hold more challenges, I remain optimistic about where the PlayStation is actually headed. Nevertheless, tell me down in the comments as well what you think about all this. Thank you so much for watching, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys all later.